Hiya folks, I hope you're doing well. It's nearly 7 p.m. on the 11th of the 4th, 2020. Well, I'll tell you, the reason for this one is because when you look at the coronavirus, we had something quite a lot worse in the centuries past. The bubonic plague was a true nasty, and we should be truly thankful that we weren't born then. Well, there was a few cases of it. Yeah, I mean, in one case, so it killed what percentage? Got the video here. I will attach the video. Right, in one case, it killed 50 million people. That was the first real-world bubonic plague attack. And the second came in the 14th century, 1347 to be precise. And it started in a lovely place that we know now, where this coronavirus apparently came from, Wuhan, in China. It went from Wuhan in China to Italy, basically the same as the coronavirus. But this one, geez, this one wiped out around about 200 million people from the planet. 200 million people. There was only around about 470 million people on the planet at the time. And they were saying in the video that some countries took 2 centuries to build their population back up. It was that horrific. And it also made a huge difference between the rich and the poor, because of course before that population was pretty much okay, not too bad. So the rich had lots of people that could work their land. There wasn't an awful lot of land available. So the poor were basically stuffed there to work for the landowners. But of course, after this, suddenly in so many nations now, the rich people were sort of less powerful now. Because even though they managed to be rich, there was less people, there was a lot more land, and the poor snapped up the land pretty quickly. And the poor could demand greater wages for doing the same work, because of course there was a much lower workforce available. So it changed society massively. But they were saying also with this bubonic plague, it's still a case now, whereas people can still get it now, years later, and around about 10% of the people that get it now still die. But you talk about a horrendous thing to die from. I mean, that was far worse. I mean, this coronavirus is bad. Any sort of death is nasty, especially on people that have their loved ones dying. However, the bubonic plague, you get to the point towards the end where your body is dying, your skin is dying, and you're still alive. Your skin is deteriorating. There's another word for it. Whatever, but it's supposed to be incredibly painful. You imagine it. Your organs and your skin. Your foot's basically going to drop off because it's just dead. Every part of your foot has died because of this. Jesus. Yeah, it wiped out 60% of, sometimes more, 75% of the people in Europe were wiped out. 75% of the people in Europe and Asia were wiped out. That is incredible. That is an astonishing number of people. And I said earlier that with this coronavirus, you're going to get some where you had families of 20 or 30 people, with extended families, which are going to be down to 5 or 6 because of this. With that, you would have whole towns completely wiped out. You'd have towns where there's 200 people, where now you've maybe got 2 or 3 families left. 2 or 3 lots of homes there still that aren't dead. Truly horrendous. I mean, all we need is something like that to come back. Something as deadly as that. As nasty as that. I mean, this thing we got now is looking quite dodgy, as I say, in the UK. The one I did last night, it looked horrendous. 90% of the people that got it have died. Yeah, out of the resolved cases so far. That is bad. That is really terrible numbers. But it's equal in numbers to the bubonic plague. And thankfully, people don't seem to die of the same. I mean, there was a sad thing on Twitter where a lady had put a post of her mum who had been killed by the virus. And this is also a bit of a concern, actually. People need to be aware of this. The lady's only symptoms that she lost taste and felt extremely fatigued. So, if she ate something, she couldn't taste it. She lost that sense of taste. And that was the first sign, really, that she got this thing. And then fatigue. Didn't have a cough, didn't have a high fever. So the thing we've been told to watch out for. And lack of breath. So in my understanding, lack of breath means you've got to phone the hospital because you might need a ventilator. You might be in serious trouble. Not necessarily. Because that one case would suggest no. If you're extremely fatigued, then you may be in a position where you may still need to go to the hospital, even though you don't seem to have breathing problems. Because that lady didn't have any of that, yet she still died. The virus still killed her. So, terrible situation. I mean, you can certainly say her suffering wouldn't have been that bad based upon the fact she didn't have the worst of the conditions. To die at home of lack of breath or anything like that would have been terrible. So, yeah. But yeah, we need to be thankful. I mean, the first thing we need to do, all of us, every day, is be thankful we're born at the time we're born at. If we'd have been born in the mid 1300s, our life experience would be so different to what it is now, what we're experiencing now in life. Now, we could easily have been born then, not now. Yeah, especially if you see it from the point of view there's no God, that you just happen to be a bit of DNA that's come together from this mother and father. Well, if they hadn't met, you wouldn't have been born at all, therefore. Because, of course, God didn't plan you, so therefore there's no God involved. And you could have been born then, because maybe the right DNA could have come together then if you'd been born then. Maybe it's just pot luck when you're born. If there's no God behind it. If God didn't know you before you were born, then and be thankful either way that God didn't choose you to be born then, because that would have been an awful time to be alive, a truly awful time. I mean, this is a tough time to a certain degree. I mean, to us, so I mean, you have to look at it through, depends on whose eyes you're looking at the situation, as to whether you see it as a tough time or not. Through our eyes, where we've not had a situation of a pandemic through really anyone's lifetime. I mean, because the last pandemic happened again in China. Well, last bubonic plague happened in China. That was in the 18-somethings, about 1870. And it still was bad. I mean, in China and India, it wiped out, I think, 2 million people in those areas, which is still a lot. Still terrible. I'm not sure actually about the numbers of it. And I went to there. Yeah, and as I say, it is that situation, folks. Yeah, we have at the moment this situation. Oh, sorry, the last one is 12 million. That India and China, 12 million people died. But that was over 100 years ago. So quite a bit over 100 years ago. Yeah. So to us, this situation looks bad. But yeah, compared to the people that lived in the past, we have, including this virus, a life of luxury. That would be the truth of it. Yeah, because we have all the things that we need. Yeah. I mean, if in the 14th century, if they wanted music, they would have to go to a theatre, or they would have to go to a performance of a musician somewhere. We don't. Just turn on the radio. Music instantly. Yeah, look through our CD collection. Just put a CD in. We can boogie away instantly. You know, travel. They would take weeks to get anywhere. I mean, even if you were going from Germany to Belgium, you know, certain parts of Germany to Belgium, it would take a long time to get there because it would be horsepower, and it'd only be horsepower if you can afford a horse. Otherwise, you'd be walking. You might have to put a cart behind you, if you can carry whatever you need to take. You have to put a cart behind you. So now you just jump in the car. And if that's not quick enough, we catch a plane. If we want to speak to someone, we don't need to necessarily even make a journey. Pick up a phone, connect with them on Skype or Zoom, being the new one. We have it easy, too easy when you think about it. And that's why the population probably has gone to ridiculous levels. Yeah, we have pretty much been unchecked since the 1940s. Just, you know, go and mate, go and spread your seed and, you know, all that rubbish until we get to the point where you can understand some people saying that the population is a problem. Yeah, because we are in a situation now where, certainly within the UK and every nation right now, Europe will be the same and America will be the same, and certainly other countries will be pretty much the same. Yeah, if you are around about 35, the chances that you can actually buy your own home or ever be able to buy your own home is incredibly slim. Yeah, if you don't have a job that pays incredibly well, even the chances that you can actually rent a property, certainly in a busy city, is incredibly slim. So you have to go and live with your parents. Yeah, these parents looked after you, fed you, clothed you, bathed you, everything. Spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on you, and now got to keep you living in their home. They thought they had freedom when you left. Now you're back. I mean, and in many cases, you're back with a husband or wife and maybe children as well, taking over that home. You wouldn't plan to, but you're gonna. Pretty much, you're gonna. So yeah, But even then, we still have it so much easier than they had it in the 14th century. And I look at life then, and that was bad, really bad. And the amount of times, especially coming from the UK, the amount of times that a king or a queen would determine that we're going off to war, so anyone who was of a certain age had to join up, and you had a tiny bit of training. You were given a sword and a shield. If you're lucky, you might be given a pike. And also, if you were given a sword, chances are it wouldn't be very sharp. I mean, the reality would be that it probably wouldn't be very sharp, because who's sharpening these things? Yeah. Basically, a blunt object you whack someone with. You want to cut someone's head off in battle, like the movies show, you probably have to whack them about 300 times to do so. Yeah, so an awful time to live. The First World War, for many, is certainly seen as an awful time to be a soldier, but you compare the soldiers in earlier times, I mean, that was really bad. But even you go earlier as well, to the time when the Romans were around. You imagine being a force faced with the Roman battalions, with them centurions. Jeez. The chances of survival, and surviving and not being turned into a slave was incredibly slim. We have it so well compared to previous times. We are so blessed compared to them. So be thankful all the time that you're born now, not then. That you have the fortune of being born in a time when life is relatively comfortable. Even for the worse off people, life is still relatively comfortable. Even for the homeless, they have homeless shelters. They have charities that go and feed the homeless. Not like it would have been then. If you were homeless, you'd probably be dead. Very soon if you were homeless. Because there weren't really charities that gave to the homeless. There weren't really charities that gave accommodation to the homeless. It certainly wasn't a DSS situation where if you manage to get somewhere, you can actually get some form of benefit paid. You could buy stuff for yourself and feed yourself. That was never the case before. In those centuries, it was never the case. So yeah, that is the situation. That's the situation of what's done. I will link that video. The people doing it are very good. Real Life Law, the ones doing it, they've done some very clever videos over the years. I'm looking back through history. Very, very clever. So it's always interesting seeing them and seeing what they're doing. Yeah. All right, well, you take care. As I say, this virus at the moment, it's terrible in some places, getting better in others. So that's good. And we're going to start to see improvements in some areas of Europe. Italy, I think they're starting to see improvements. France, I'm not sure if they're starting to see improvements yet. They will be. But even there, you've got deaths yesterday, 635 in France. Well, that's half what they had previously. Spain certainly are going down now, because they only had 272 extra deaths yesterday, which is way lower than what they've had previously. So, they seem to be coming down a bit. Although new cases still 3,579, so quite a lot. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, as I say, with regards to the United States and the UK, and still France is still pretty bad. but generally speaking, it seems to be plateauing. Seems to be. Obviously, time will tell. There needs to be quite a few more days of the numbers going down or up, staying about steady before we can say it for certainty. But yeah, let's hope that we start to see some improvements pretty soon with regards to the situation. I mean, apparently Donald Trump was thinking that America could get back to previous ways around about the 1st of May. He could be optimistic if that's the case. It's quite likely he's being a tad optimistic, especially as it's quite likely the numbers coming out at the moment in America aren't the worst it's going to get. But they still have 473,000 active cases. And that's potentially an awful lot of deaths still to come. So, yeah, that many cases. Well, they had 18,000 new cases yesterday. With that being the case, you're still getting the new cases are increasing, not decreasing. So all the while that's the case, there shouldn't be any talk at all about coming out of it because you're not nowhere near. Anyway, there you go. Not much more I can say about this particular one because at the moment we're still in it. How long it's going to take to come out of it, I don't know. What I was saying about that lady who put the thing about her mum dying, she also said her mum only went out to the shops once. She'd been self-isolating the whole time. So I would certainly say if you go to the shops, be aware, take something to wash your hands with every time. You go touching stuff, be aware of that. And if I was you, if you're walking around the shop, use a bit of hand wash. Wash your hands for 20 seconds, 30 seconds after touching something. Even if it's something you put in your basket. Because someone else could have touched that. And then you touching it, you could get the virus, and then you touch your face. I say the problem with the face is we've been touching our faces whenever our faces have wanted us to touch them for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Some more depending upon your age. And of course, it's habit. And so not touching your face is not a simple thing to do or not do. And wearing gloves is not the solution because if you touch something with a pair of gloves, then you touch your face with the same pair of gloves, you are still putting that virus all over yourself, all over your mouth. If you touch anywhere near your mouth. So, don't think for a second that wearing gloves will solve that because it won't. The virus is going to go on the gloves the same as it would go on your hand. If you can take a load of pair of gloves with you and dispose of them every time you touch something, then that saves you washing your hands. But generally speaking, if you're doing quite a big shop, you would need an awful lot of gloves to cover that. So just take some hand wash, a little container, and just wash your hands every 3 or 4 minutes as you go around the shop. As you touch stuff, wash your hands. And then even if you get your food delivered, be aware that the wise move would be put your food where you're going to put it. Don't touch it for 12 hours. If you do, wash your hands. After you've unpacked the stuff and touch the bags or whatever, wash your hands. Or disinfect the stuff. So what I usually do is when I buy stuff, I don't buy that much. When I go down shopping, I buy one backpack's worth of stuff. But I bleach everything. I get a sponge, put a bit of bleach on it, and wipe it over every single thing I bought, so that any virus on it will be destroyed more or less immediately. So I can then handle the product and put it where it needs to be. Then I make sure I wash my hands afterwards because I've got a bit of bleach on my hands anyway. But if I do happen to touch my face, when I put the stuff away, I bleach the things. So there's bleach on my fingers, so that should deal with any virus on my fingers as well. So yeah. Well, there you go. That'll do for now, folks. Be careful of the situation because, as I say, that lady apparently went up to the shops once and she still got it. So be careful of the situation. We don't want people taking risks that they shouldn't be taking. Okay? So go to the shops only when you really need to. But be prepared to go twice in a day if you have to. I mean, I'm not going to queue up because I think that's even more dangerous. If you're standing in a queue to go into a shop, that's a dangerous situation to be in, so I'm not going to do that. So I go at times of the day when there's no queues. I've been fortunate so far not to have any queues when I've gone, so yeah. You take care, God bless, and I will speak to you soon. God willing. God willing, there's always a point, so in case of adding that on. So enjoy. Bye bye.